They're the prohibitive favorite in the Western Conference and really in the entire league. They're struggling with the challenge of making 4 straight finals. There have only been 4 teams in history that have done that. So that's one thing you have to credit LeBron James, to go to 7 straight finals, working on 8. Mentally, it is tough. It fatigues you, and you hear Steve Kerr talk about it. But, I mean, you get tired maybe of your teammates because you're with them all the time. You get tired of the coach's voice. Not that you don't like them, and it's a huge problem, but it's just the mundane, you know, the everyday and going through the same routine. And the regular season becomes meaningless. And that's one thing they're battling with. And where you see it mostly is on the defensive end. Because offense, no matter how meaningless the regular season is, you always love playing offense.
Right.
But defense, where you have to grind and put forth that effort in a game that you know doesn't really matter. It's all about May and June for you. That's when it gets tough. And this 4, they won 5 of their last 9. Their defense is where they've struggled. And last night it was the same thing. They let the Clippers shoot 50%. This is a middling L.A. Clippers team. They just put on a light show offensively, Golden State. That's how they ended up winning. But defensively, they left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I expect the same, too. And I think this is Steve Kerr's probably his toughest coaching challenge since he's been with Golden State, because of that, how do I motivate these guys? And I think I don't know if he gets frustrated because he still has one of the best gigs in the NBA, but I think he is trying to pull different strings. And then they had the season where they had the 73 wins, and they're trying to get 72. So that carrot was dangled out there. At other times, they've said, all right, let's see how many points Clay can get this quarter, you know, or Steph, or whatever it is. You know, but again, I totally agree with you. Coming as far as the offensive and defensive side of the ball, because everybody loves getting buckets, you know, and it's fun to watch Steph drop 44. But it isn't fun to go on the other side of the floor. And coming into the All-Star break, they were second to last in defensive efficiency. But what's kind of odd about that is during their championships runs, they're always really good defensively, which you don't get any attention. Nobody ever analyzes it when they're getting 73 wins. You're not saying, oh, it's because of the defense, even though in large part it was because they were so balanced. So I think that's what Kerr's trying to do. He's trying to say, let me let everybody coach this game. And I know he got criticized as it show up the other team, but no, he's trying to do whatever it takes to keep his team invested, involved, and excited about the game, which it goes back to your point about like having 2 months extra in the season to make those runs to the finals and get those championships. That is a lot of basketball. It's a lot of wear on you physically. It's a lot of wear on you emotionally, mentally, just getting up for those games. And I think you're seeing that. I think it's starting to take its toll. But it doesn't impact my view of them as favorites to win it.
The interesting thing with them, and we won't know this until the playoffs, but if you look, I think they're going to have a tougher road than they've had in many of the previous seasons in the playoffs. And the 2 times they won the championship, 2015, they had an easy road. Memphis was banged up. The L.A. Clippers were banged up. Of course, Cleveland was banged up with Kyrie and Kevin Love missing the finals. They won that championship. 2017, last year, they go 16-1 through the playoffs. Portland was without Yusef Nurkic. They wouldn't have beat him, but he could have made things a little bit tougher. San Antonio, of course, Kawhi Leonard goes out in the first game, and they're up big on Golden State. And then they go ahead and win it. The one year they had a challenge in the playoffs was 2016 when they were down 3-1 to OKC, and they didn't end up winning it. This year, who knows who they'll get in the first round. But if they get an OKC in the second round, I think they would beat OKC. But that would not only be a tough matchup physically, but emotionally with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. I know they've kind of made up, and that was good to see at the All-Star game. But still, that emotion, Durant being in Oklahoma City for games, that would be a lot more emotionally and mentally fatiguing than you really want in the second round. And then, of course, if you get Houston in the conference finals. So they will have a much tougher road, I believe, to get to the finals than they've had in the past. Cleveland should have a relatively easy road, and that maybe will make the finals matchup a lot tougher.
We know there's stars on stars, but when you look at their lineup, whether it's Steph, KD, Clay, Draymond, who to you is the most important piece in this group to be able to play. They all need to play well,
Right.
but to really be at their peak form.
To me, I look at it as the second best player on the planet. Because if LeBron's one, it's KD right behind him. I think it's Kevin Durant. I think he means the most to them. But really what makes them special is there are so many different components, so many things to make it go. And I think even Draymond is probably underrated as his value to the team.
Very important.
And especially when what we're talking about emotionally, like, hey, it's boring or whatever, he brings the emotion every night. And even if he's getting him tossed out of games or getting him texts, he still brings that. So there's value there. But as far as one player that I feel like means the most to them, I think it's Kevin Durant because it's so tough to defend him. And I know it's not easy to cover Steph either, but his game is a little bit more one-dimensional, being this, this insane shooter that you're seeing, whereas Kevin Durant can back up from threes, but he's can also take you down low. He's got really good handles, and his height. Like, how tough is it to defend a guy with a body built like that?
Yeah, I think Durant's clearly their best player. Offensively, he's great. Virtually impossible to guard because I used to say before he even went to Golden State, he was like a 7-foot version of Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Not quite as good of a shooter, but they both have great handle. Steph is better, but they both have great handle, can finish at the rim and have the mid-range game. And then, of course, Durant does it at the defensive end, which is huge for them now because they don't really have the shot blocking. He's bringing that, and then as a team, they're blocking a lot of shots, but it's all based on him. But all that said, I think Steph is the most important player because I think the way he stretches the defense with his range, I mean, this was a bit of an aberration, him hitting that, I don't know, what was that, 44 feet or whatever it was he hit last night. But when he's playing and he's the focal point of the offense, the defense is spread out so far that it opens everything up. And then, of course, like I said, he's got the handle. He's a great passer. If you look at them, like when they went through that 4-and-4 stretch right before the All-Star break, Durant was averaging 27 points a game. He was lighting it up offensively. Steph was only averaging 22, and they were losing. When Steph in January was averaging about 30 points a game, that was their best run of the season. And Durant actually missed several games. He missed 3 games, the Clippers, Denver, and Houston, who are all very good teams. The Warriors beat them all by double digits, and Steph was the lightning rod, averaged 35 points a game in those games. So I think it's critical. He can't defer to Durant, and I don't think he does anymore, but he has to be hot and rolling and playing loosey-goosey, and that's when I think they're at their best.
Don't you think, though, if Steph was out of the lineup, that Klay Thompson could fulfill a similar role, making defenses go out that far?
No, I mean, because he doesn't have the handle.
Right.
He's a great, he can create off the dribble too, but not like Steph, nor is he the passer. So I think if they didn't have Durant, I think they could still win it. If they didn't have Steph,
even though they didn't,
I put them in the hunt, but I don't think they would.
Without him.
No, I still think they would.
And they were close. I mean, they were. They had that.
They were the best team, but things happen.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.